Brenton and the team at Bike Walk Tampa were kind enough to get our community 200 of these. We will distribute them grab and go style through your passenger window of your car, or if you come in a golf cart or bike or walk, obviously we'll hand it to you that way. We'll all have masks on and practice safe distancing. So when this ends, head on over 30 minutes later to the clubhouse, and I'll show you what, or we'll try to show you what the bag, maybe we won't see what the bag looks like.
Oh, I think with the green screen, we can't see it.
Yeah. So anyways, it's a pretty large size material kind of shopping bag, but it has the backpack straps and also regular shopping bag handles. So you could use it as a backpack while you're walking or biking, or use it as a normal handled bag. We also will have inside of there safety literature on bike safety, golf cart safety, and a few other pieces of information. And the bags are nice size. You could easily take something like a pickleball racket in there, tennis racket, bocce, any activity that you're doing at the clubhouse or somewhere else in the community. These bags will work. So hopefully most of you will come by to the Circle Drive at the clubhouse at the end of today's presentation.
Thank you, Harry. Again, we really appreciate your efforts in putting this together. Please remember, we will be having a question and answer time at the end of the program. So if you would please keep yourself muted and your video stopped throughout until the end, and then we will introduce the question and answer time. Thank you. Well, today I would like to welcome, so please join me in welcoming our guest presenters today. We have three. We have Community Resource Deputy for the Sun City Center area, Deputy Jeff Mary. He began his career with Hillsborough Sheriff's Office in 2011. While he is at the HCSO, he has been assigned to Patrol and District Intelligence Unit. In addition, he served as a member of the Homeland Security Investigations Task Force. The task force was created to investigate criminal organizations involved in bank fraud, wire fraud, identity theft, and money laundering. So Deputy Jeff Mary earned his bachelor's degree in political science and criminal justice from Valdosta State University. And he earned his master's degree in public administration with a concentration in law enforcement administration in 2005. We also have Mr. Brenton Mosier. He is the Transportation Demand Management Program Support and Outreach Specialist for various programs. These various programs include Walk Wise Tampa Bay, Bike Walk Tampa Bay, such as this seminar, and Enterprise Car Share. His education, he earned his bachelor's in mass communications at the University of South Florida in 2008. He has earned his master's of public administration at the University of South Florida in 2013. And we also have Julie Bond with us today, and she's going to be assisting Mr. Mosier. She is from the Center of Urban Transportation and Research. So please join me in welcoming our three guests. Thank you so much, and we look forward to all the information we will learn from you folks today.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my PowerPoint. Again, I am Brenton Mosier. I'm with the Center for Urban Transportation Research at USF, and I'm with my supervisor, Julie Bond, the program manager for this presentation and various others at USF. She also got her Master's of Public Administration from USF. We are both league cycling instructors, so not only do we do classes like this, we also have done hands-on classes with riders in the past. So today we're going to talk about some safety tips for walking, biking, and driving. We'll cover a few other different things as well. You will all take the safety pledge at the end of the presentation. You'll become safety ambassadors, and we will talk about other ways to get involved. So this is an interactive presentation, so we will be talking about some of the questions that I sent out in the pre-survey. And if you have any questions during the presentation, you can go ahead and post them in the chat, and Julie can help answer those for you.
And I did just post a message in the chat. So if you have questions during the session, I know we're having a Q&A at the end, but if you do think of something, please type it in the chat and I can answer you, or we can wait until the end if it's something that needs further comment.
So one of the first questions from the survey that we asked is, how safe do you feel like walking is in your neighborhood? And we had about 275 respondents to the survey. And the results were, the majority of residents in Valencia Lakes feel like it is very safe to walk. So we have a few that say somewhat safe and just a little itty bit that thinks that somewhat unsafe or very unsafe. So there are a lot of factors that affect people's perception of safety, such as, the infrastructure, the speed of cars on the road, things like that. And we're going to talk about some ways to navigate the road safely. First, if you're walking in a parking lot, you are still a pedestrian. When you walk in the parking lot, we always recommend you walk in the middle of a lot because you can be better seen in a driver's rearview mirror. Plus, you can see the reverse lights and see when a driver is starting to back out. So if you walk too close to the motor vehicles, then someone might pull through or start backing out and you might not be able to see them react in time. So always make sure you make yourself more visible. Wear bright colors or carry a reflective item like the bags that we have provided to increase your visibility when walking at night. A high percentage of crashes involve people walking at night and bicycling at night for that matter. At the end of the month, the time is going to change. So it's going to start getting dark a lot earlier. So that's a common time when crashes spike. So you always want to make sure that you have something that just makes yourself more visible, whether it's a reflective item, something bright to wear, carry a flashlight, use your cell phone's flashlight, just anything that makes you stand out more.
Thank you.
And always stay on sidewalks wherever they are available. It is the law to use the sidewalks if possible, and it's just the safest place to be if you are walking when there are sidewalks. However, when there are not sidewalks, we did ask you which direction should you be walking. So if you are walking on a roadway and there are no sidewalks, which direction should you be walking? The majority of you said you would walk facing traffic. So that is the correct answer. You do walk facing traffic. You want to be able to see those motor vehicle drivers, be able to make eye contact so that they see that you're there. And in case a driver looks distracted or, is driving erratically, you want to be able to move safely away from the roadway. So whenever you're walking, we always recommend that you walk facing the direction of traffic. It is the law, but it makes you more visible and allows you to react better. So true or false, when pedestrians are crossing, they may enter the crosswalk when the walk signal starts counting down. So many of them, you'll have the walk sign and that'll start flashing, and many of them have a countdown that begins. And so we're asking, is it okay to start walking, entering the crosswalk once that countdown is started? And you were pretty split on this. You had about 48% said true and 51% said false. The correct answer is false. You must be already in that crosswalk and finishing your crossing once that countdown has started. So you should only start walking once you have that white walking signal. So when the signal turns white, you want to make sure that all the motor vehicle drivers have stopped, and then you start crossing. And once it starts flashing and starts counting down, then you should be finishing your crossing. You see the lady here only has 4 seconds left, so she can finish her crossing. But the person in the median, even though it's not yet a full don't walk sign, it's going to turn that way when they start walking. So they will not have enough time to finish crossing. And of course, once that countdown stops, that don't walk sign comes on, then the traffic light is going to turn green, and those motorists are going to want to go through that intersection. So you do not want to be caught trying to hurry up to the other side. So always give yourself plenty of time by only starting walking when you have the white walk signal. And then if it started counting down, wait for the next cycle. So make eye contact with drivers, especially motorists that are making right-hand turns. So we always say look both ways before you cross the street, and always make sure you get the attention of that motorist that is turning right. Even though they do legally have to yield to you, it's safest for you to make sure that they have actually come to a stop before you start going. So just make sure that you get their attention, make up that eye contact when a driver's turning right and you have the walk sign. Use extra caution when crossing multiple lane roads or one-way streets. So when you're crossing a multiple lane road, you want to make sure that all the lanes of traffic have stopped. And when you're crossing a one-way street, even though the law says you must turn to the closest curb, many motorists will go into the lane that they want to be in. So you see in this situation, we have a multi-lane one-way street, and so there may be something over here that the motorist wants to get to. So they may actually make a wide right turn into that far lane. And so you always want to make sure you're being aware of those sort of situations. So be alert, avoid distractions when you're crossing the road. Of course, phones are our most common types of distractions these days, but you could also be talking to the person next to you. You could be looking through something for something in your bag. You could be eating, you could have children with you. So you always want to make sure when you're getting ready to cross the road that you've put everything away and you're just looking at that road. Julie, is there anything so far that we need to address?
No, again, if anyone wants to type questions in the Zoom chat, please feel free. We don't have any yet, Brenton, but I'll continue to monitor it.
Great. So we're going to talk about some different types of mid-block crossings that have been integrated in the Tampa Bay region. So this one is called a mid-block crosswalk with a rapid flash beacon, or RRFB, rectangular rapid flash beacon. So these are pedestrian activated. Pedestrian pushes that button and the signal starts flashing pretty much right away. It flashes in a very quick, rapid manner. And this is a cue, even though motorists should always be stopping for drivers that are crossing in crosswalks. This is sort of a visual cue that a pedestrian is getting ready to cross. Now, if you push the button and it starts flashing, you can't just step out into the crosswalk. You also have to make sure you are aware and watching those motor vehicles, making sure that they do come to a stop. They may be too close to the crosswalk to stop in time. They may not know how the crosswalk works. So you always want to make sure that all the traffic has stopped before you start your crossing. Several of them do have refuge islands. So you stop one lane, one direction of traffic. You get into that median, and then there's a button in the median, so you can then stop the other direction of traffic. And once you have cleared that first side of the road, those motor vehicle drivers can start going again. So in this situation, it keeps the traffic moving and also allows the pedestrian to only worry about one side. And then once they get to that median, then they push the button and they can be concerned with the other direction of traffic. So again, as a motor vehicle driver, you should approach any sort of crosswalk with caution. And if you see these, be on the lookout, see if there's any pedestrians that might, be in the crosswalk, be getting ready to cross. They might cross and not know that they have to push the button. So you always just want to make sure that you're vigilant and slowing down when you're approaching a crosswalk, just in case you need to route to a pedestrian standing there. The other type is called a pedestrian hybrid beacon. And these function more like traditional traffic lights. You press the button and you will have a don't walk sign. And once the light up ahead turns red, you will get a walk signal. So watch for those motorists, make sure that they have stopped, and then you start crossing. And again, once you have that countdown, you should be finishing crossing. So when you're driving in a motor vehicle and you see these, you might it'll be completely dark when you're coming up on that intersection. But once the pedestrian has pressed that button, it'll start flashing yellow. And that, just like a regular yellow light, cues you to slow down, and then it'll become a steady yellow light. You should be preparing to stop, just like a regular red light. So you'll have two red lights that are steady, and that means you should, just like any other red light, be at a complete stop. And then they'll start flashing back and forth, and that means that the signal is getting ready to go back to dark, and you can proceed as long as it's clear and there are no pedestrians still in the crosswalk. So again, you should always be alert when you see these, but they will function more like a traditional traffic light when you see those red lights. When you see a yellow light, you slow down. When you see a red light, you stop. Okay. So if you just want to comment in the chat if you have seen these or if you have any sort of experience with them that you would like to share. Right. Okay, I don't see anything else in the chat, so we are going to continue on. We're going to talk about bicycling. So just by using the Zoom to raise your hand, how many of you currently ride a bicycle? Okay, see 2, 3, we got a couple people raising their hand. We did have several people in our pre-survey comments did mention that they were cyclists and other people that had had interaction with cyclists. So I see a few people raising their hand. Even if you do not personally ride a bicycle, it is important to know your rights and responsibilities as well as theirs. So I see a few more, about 6 or 7 people have raised their hand.
It looks like we have a few. And just a reminder, if you need to find where to raise your hand, just look in the participants box and you should be able to find the raise hand feature.
I'm getting a few more now, 10 participants. Great. 13. So we asked you how safe you feel like bicycling is in Valencia Lakes. And we had quite a mix of responses here. Less of you felt very safe. The majority of you felt somewhat safe. And we had, again, just a few that felt somewhat unsafe and only a couple that felt very unsafe. So we asked, true or false, if a bicyclist is riding on a sidewalk, do they have to yield to pedestrians? And the majority of you said true, which is the correct answer. So in Florida, it is legal to ride on the sidewalk unless otherwise posted. Whoops. Bicyclists must yield to the people walking. So the pedestrians have the right of way on that sidewalk, and you have to give an audible warning when passing. So this applies to sidewalks, and multi-use trails and paths. So the bicyclist must yield to that pedestrian. If they do pass them, they have to ring a bell, say, I'm coming up on your left, any kind of audible warning for the pedestrian to hear. A pedestrian or bicyclists should be going much slower on sidewalks than they would if they were riding on the roadway, because not only do you need to be conscious of the pedestrians, but there are also driveways and side streets where motorists are coming in and out, and those motorists are looking for slow moving traffic. So if you are going at a greater speed than normal, then you need to be running more on the roadway than on the sidewalk. So a lot of people feel safer on the sidewalk, but with those motorists pulling in and out, plus the pedestrian traffic, it is not necessarily the safest place to be. So in Florida, bicyclists may legally ride on the sidewalks unless posted otherwise. So there are certain areas like downtowns, beach communities, business districts that have high concentrations of foot traffic. They're really dense, smaller streets. They may restrict bicycle riding in those areas, but there will usually be a sign with a posted ordinance saying that bicycling is restricted in that area. However, they may ride on sidewalks elsewhere. So bicycles that ride on the roadway are considered legal vehicles, and they are safest when they act as vehicles and are treated as vehicles. So when they follow all the rules of the road and are given the respect of users of the road as other motorists, then that is when everyone is safest. So bicyclists must come to full, complete stops at all stop signs and red lights. They must follow all the traffic signals. When they are turning, they have to, give their hand signals to indicate they're turning. Electric bicycles are legal vehicles to the same extent as bicycles are. Electric vehicles are allowed wherever traditional bicycles are allowed. Cities, again, may limit certain activities, such as riding electric bicycles on sidewalks. But if you do have an electric bicycle, you must be sure to observe the posted speed limits, because they do tend to go faster than a traditional bicycle. So electric bicycle is considered anything with a pedal assist electric motor. So if it has any kind of throttle, it falls into a different category of low speed vehicles, mopeds, motorcycles, etc. So if it's got a pedal with an electric motor assist, that is considered an e-bike or electric bike, and they pretty much are regulated the same as bicycles. So if a bicyclist does ride along a roadway, which direction should they be riding? And the majority of you said that they ride with the direction of traffic, which is the correct answer. Of course, they are legal vehicles, so they must ride in the same direction as traffic. And again, it's not just, because it's the law. It's also safer for you because, once again, those motorists that are coming out of driveways or side street, they're going to pull up to the road, and the first direction they're going to look is to their left. So if you're riding with the direction of traffic, you'll be seen alongside those motorists that are coming. Whereas if you're riding in the same or against traffic, that motorist might not look to the right in time to see you before they start pulling out. So it is safer to ride in the same direction as traffic as well as the law. If you are concerned about sharing the road with motor vehicle drivers, you can get mirrors that attach to your helmet or your handlebar. And just like a rear view mirror in your motor vehicle, those will help you be more visible and aware of the motorists on the road so you can react to them. So as legal vehicles, bicycles must have lights on their bike. So a white light on the front and a red light on the back that must be turned on between sunset and sunrise. If you are riding during the day and you have your lights on your bike, you can turn them on. There's nothing that says that, there's no restriction on that. It may make you more visible if you put them on flash mode. So we do encourage that using them both day and night, but the law says you must have them when you ride at night. So we're going to talk a little bit about electric personal assistive mobility devices. So a driver's license is not required to operate a electric motor, electric wheelchair. So they may be operated on a street or road less than 25 miles an hour. They can ride on a bicycle path, and they may operate on a sidewalk. Just like bicyclists, they must yield to pedestrians and give an audible warning when passing them. So if you want to learn more, the Florida statute there is at the bottom. And then when it comes to golf carts, so golf carts are defined in section 320 of this Florida statutes as a motor vehicle that is designed and manufactured for operation on a golf course and does not exceed speeds of 20 miles an hour. Low-speed vehicles, which are similar to golf carts, cannot exceed 25 miles an hour. So they may cross a portion of the county road that intersects the roadway that is approved for golf carts. Certain communities like yours do allow them on the road. Again, they must comply with any local ordinances. They are not required to be titled and registered, but so you do not have to have insurance coverage. However, no one under 14 may operate them on the roadway. So again, if you are driving a golf cart, the best thing to do is just be considerate of the pedestrians and bicycles in that area, because they are the more vulnerable road users. So you want to make sure that they are protected. Okay. So you can find this little guide online with the Florida Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles that talks about low-speed vehicles, which again are greater than 20 miles an hour, but not greater than 25. These must be licensed, registered, titled, and insured, unlike golf carts. And they must have certain safety features such as windshield, VIN number, seat belts, tail lamps, front lamps, etc. So if you want to learn more about that, you can go and find this guide to owning a low-speed vehicle on the Florida Department of Motor Vehicles website. So we're going to talk about some important tips for motor sharing the road. So we talked about walking, we talked about bicycling, now we're going to talk about driving. So motorists should be alert and always avoid blocking a crosswalk. So that is the pedestrian's right of way. This is a ticketable offense if you are pulling up too far and the pedestrian cannot safely cross. Also, if you're crossing an intersection, you have to have sufficient clearance to get to the other side. So you can't be blocking the roadway or the far side crosswalk. We just have a little short video from our friends at the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office with Sergeant Stephen Cherpak, who narrated this video for us.
Whether you're driving a car, riding a bike, or walking, we must all be aware and share the road. Remember, when the light turns red, you must stop before the crosswalk to allow pedestrians to safely cross.
So the other question that we asked you in the survey was, what is the most common type of intersection crash between a motorist and a pedestrian? So at an intersection where a person is trying to cross and a motorist is there, what is the most common type of crash? So the first one is when the motorist is turning left. 20% of you said that. 50% of you said when the motorist is turning right. And 30% of you said when the motorist runs a red light. So the correct answer is when the motorist is turning right. So again, as we talked about this earlier with pedestrians being alert and aware, like motorists turning right should always be looking for pedestrians. Usually when a motorist is turning right, they're looking to the left because they're looking for oncoming traffic. But then those pedestrians also might be preparing to cross. So you want to make sure that you're looking both ways and seeing that, you know, if there's any pedestrians there before you start your turn. So again, we have just another little 15-second video from the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office that talks about this.
Most intersections with traffic lights also have crosswalks. There's always a potential for someone to be crossing even if your light is green. Whether your light is red or green, hold tight and always look before you turn right.
So yeah, that, again, the right turn is the most common type of conflict between a motorist and a pedestrian. So you always want to make sure that as a motorist, you're looking both ways. If you are turning right on a red, if that is allowable at that intersection, you have to come to a full and complete stop before you start turning at the stop bar behind the crosswalk. So the last question we asked you is, how many feet must a motorist give when passing a bicyclist on the roadway? So if you're on a smaller road, maybe like one of those in Valencia Lakes, and there are bicycles in the roadway, there's no bike lane, they're just riding in the road, how much width of space do you have to give them? So the majority of you said 3 feet, some of you said 5, a couple of you said 7 feet. So the minimum by law is 3 feet. Of course, 5 or 7 would be great. But 3 feet is the minimum. Again, we always say if you're going to pass a bicyclist, you should just pass them the same way you would any other slow-moving vehicle. Just check that oncoming lane, make sure it's clear, and go and give them as wide a berth as possible as you go around them. So when a situation where you might expect a bicyclist to be in the lane. So bicyclists can make left turns the same way that motor vehicle drivers can. If there's a left turn lane, they may, you know, check the behind them, signal, and move over into the turn lane and make that turn lane because it's just a little bit more convenient and safer for them than trying to navigate 2 different crosswalks to go left. To avoid door zones, so in areas where there is street side parking, they'll want to ride further out of the road to avoid, you know, cars opening their doors. And again, on a narrow road, if it's not wide enough for for a motorcyclist and a bicyclist to ride side by side, you know, they may be more centered there. There may be debris or other obstacles in the curb of the bike lane. So, you know, a lot of times, you know, trash, you know, rocks, broken glass, gravel, they just kind of accumulate along the side of the road. So bicyclists may be riding farther out of the, you know, farther into the lane just to avoid those sort of obstacles. Or when you see this share, which is a shared lane marking, that also is, you know, a cue that you may see a bicyclist using the travel lane. So we talked about walking, biking, and driving, and we're proponents of what is called Vision Zero. And Vision Zero is an effort to make sure that there are no fatalities or crashes along our roadways. And we have a little short video about why Vision Zero is important.
Did you know in Florida, an average of 800 pedestrians and bicyclists are fatally injured in traffic crashes every year? What do you think is a more acceptable number?
Acceptable? Maybe 50?
Okay, this is what 50 people look like.
Well, that's my family, my friends.
So now, what do you think is a more acceptable number?
0. Definitely 0.
So that's a little video that FDOT put together about Vision Zero, just to emphasize that everyone who is on the roadway is somebody. They're a person to somebody else. And so we all need to make sure we're all following the laws, whether we're walking, biking, or driving, and we're all doing our part to keep each other safe. So now we're going to take the safety pledge. So anyone just wants to just temporarily unmute their mics, and we're going to do this little pledge. So you'll raise your right hand and say it along with me. I pledge to walk wise, bike smart, drive safe,
and
spread the word about the importance
of
safety to my friends, family,
neighbors,
colleagues,
and others.
All right, that was great. Thank you very much. So now you're all safety ambassadors. So what does that mean? So talk about safety to others, spread what you learned in this presentation to those, who couldn't attend, to, your friends, family, neighbors. Refer this presentation. So we do present not only to neighborhood associations, we present to business staff, we present to other civic groups like Kiwanis or Rotary. We have in the past gone to shelters. So we do a lot of different types of presentations. You can follow our program Bike Walk Tampa Bay on social media. So we are on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And visit the website walkbikedrive.org. You can see our PSAs that we showed you, plus a few other PSAs that we have, things about work zones, some of the new mid-block crossings we talked about. And there's, you can make a safety pledge there, and there's a link to some safety quizzes as well. All right. So I want to thank you again very much. And Julie, were there any questions in the chat that I needed to address?
Sure. Before we open the mics, you did have someone who, Patricia, thank you, Patricia, asked this question, and this is a common question we get. We have several crosswalks here in Valencia Lakes, but no traffic lights. Who has the right of way when using a crosswalk? And so I did comment, and I'll let you further comment, Brent, that motorists must always yield to pedestrians in crosswalks. So if the pedestrian is the vulnerable person, motorists need to yield to them legally in the crosswalk. However, also Florida laws does say that pedestrians can't suddenly leave the curb so that the motorist does not have time to stop. So that also the pedestrian must take into account, they need to stop and look before they enter the crosswalk. But motorists do need to yield to them when they are crossing.
Right, and the only thing I wanted to add to that is there are what we call unmarked crosswalks. So as long as there is a clear path from one side of the road to the other with no medians or barriers, it does not have to be striped to be considered a crosswalk. It is considered an unmarked crosswalk. So again, pedestrians would have the right of way as long as they are, like you said, using their due care and making not just abruptly entering the crosswalk. Okay. Anyone else?
I have one. I'm Jerry Breen. Hi. I have a question specifically about safety for Valencia Lakes. As a driver, and I have bikers on Valencia Lakes Drive, as we all know, it curves, and it is not safe frequently to pass those bikers, especially if they're two abreast. And you can't possibly pass them without a chance of hitting a maybe oncoming driver. So I wonder, is it a good idea for bikers to be on Valencia Lakes Drive specifically just for that reason?
I mean, as we talked about earlier in the presentation, and someone else that, from Valencia Lakes may be better suited to address this, but bicyclists might want to position themselves, in the lane for that reason, so they can make themselves more visible, to the motorists. And, if they're too far to the right, then, when you have a curb, oncoming traffic might not see them there. And so, they may take that lane, and if they're riding two abreast, then they're bunching closer together. So not creating a longer line, which may, create more of an inconvenience. So Julie, did you have anything to add to that?
I just wanted to add that, as a cyclist, I often look for the safest route. However, bicyclists do have a right to the road, and they can legally ride on that road. So as a driver, you need to be patient and wait until it's safe to go around them and safe to cross or safe to pass them. So remember, they are the vulnerable road user, as a bicyclist, you're in a motor vehicle, so you want to make sure it's safe to pass them. And again,
Sure, and I do.
Be a few extra seconds to wait, but you want to make sure that there isn't anyone coming from the other direction when you pass.
Yeah, well, I do that, and because of being responsible, but I worry. You can see situations that it's just almost like unnecessary if somebody might take that chance. The other thing is though, when we come to a stop sign, come to a full stop, and you look both ways, of course. But a lot of times the shrubbery on that corner property has overgrown, so that you kind of have to nudge forward to be able to really get a good working view. And I think that Valencia Lakes needs to look at these sections and maybe cut back the shrubbery. That famous stop sign that's on Coral Drive, you can stop there, but you really have to nudge forward a bit and have a good look to be sure nobody's coming. So I might make that suggestion that our safety committee takes a look at some of those intersections, and I think other residents would agree. Thank you.
That's a good comment, and we do see that frequently where road crews are called out to cut back shrubbery, because oftentimes it can create, it can block the driver's view for pedestrians and bicyclists. So that's a good suggestion I'd encourage you to make. Another method that we use is, I'm not that familiar with the road that you're talking about, but there could be some infrastructure improvements to help make it more safer for both motorists and bicyclists. And so that could be something that you could look at also. I mean, is there an infrastructure way, which means, is there something in the roadway that could be made safer so that you're comfortable with the bicyclist there and the bicyclists are comfortable riding there? And so oftentimes when we hear these suggestions, that's something you could take up with whoever's responsible for that roadway and look at it and say, is there something that we can do to this road to make it safer? Because you probably have a lot of bicyclists and you have people driving who want it to be safe. So I suggest also looking at that roadway with whoever is responsible, seeing if there are safety improvements, simple safety improvements can be made, such as green bike lanes or, different types of simple improvements for that road. I'm not sure what the speed limit is. And so speed limits can be looked at. So there are a lot of different things to make that roadway safer for everyone using it that you could look at as a community.
Yeah, well, that's speaking off the cuff, and everything you say, of course, is very practical. But specifically for Valencia Lakes, I think that the simple solution would be to take a look at the anywhere where there's an intersection, and you'll see that the shrubbery is grown to, oh gosh, sometimes within 6 feet of even of the road. Not even the interstices of the sidewalk. I know in New Jersey, it used to be 15 feet and you could get clear views. But anyway, so that was something that if you work for Valencia Lakes, you might just see if somebody thinks it's worthwhile. I do. Thank you.
And someone put in the comments, you can put in a work order for that. So I'm sure after this session, since you have many people attending, that someone will put in a work order and that will be looked at.
Thank you.
Anyone else want to come forward with a question for Julie or Brenton?
Yes, this is Wayne Sievert. Can I speak?
Yeah.
Yeah. I wrote you a question and you didn't answer it. It's in regard to vehicular traffic, not in the community, outside of the community. And it's in regard to U-turns. Why are U-turn vehicles required to yield to vehicles making a right turn? It would seem to me that, and those signs are posted at a lot of intersections, the U-turn vehicle must yield to a right turn vehicle. A U-turn vehicle has a green light. A right turn vehicle does not, and they're supposed to come to a full stop, but very seldom do they. And I think that creates a big hazard right there to force the U-turn driver to yield to a right turn driver. Can you answer that? Why that is?
I think we would defer that to your police officer who's on.
Yeah, Deputy Mary.
Yeah, because that's I mean, yeah, that has something to do with the law, and he might want to comment on that.
Okay, then I have another comment regarding bicyclists. I'm a bicyclist myself, and I forever see bicyclists in the community here, within the community, riding two abreast. And I know you just mentioned that, but in Florida law tells you that a bicyclist should ride single file.
Florida law does say bicyclists may ride two abreast. They just cannot impede what's called the reasonable flow of traffic.
Right.
So, I mean, again,
Yeah,
that's
well,
one of those things that for safety and visibility, they may ride two abreast. If it's a group of bicyclists, it makes them more compact and less less space that they occupy on the road. So, and what constitutes impeding the flow of traffic is kind of open to a wide interpretation. Again, that might be something more that Deputy Mayor can answer. But the Florida law does allow for riding two abreast, in certain situations. And like we said earlier, it just might be a thing that makes that they might want to be more visible, to the motorist. They might feel safer riding two abreast.
Oftentimes, it's not going to be safe for a motorist to pass the bicycle when they're riding single file, and sometimes motorists will kind of squeeze them to the right. So riding two abreast can be safer, or taking the lane. So oftentimes you'll see the bicycle. This is, depends on what type of road you're on. But on a slower speed road where there is no bike lane, they may take the lane just to be, and that's safer for the bicyclist to do, so that the person driving the car doesn't kind of squeeze them over. And oftentimes in Florida, we have curbs. So, as a motorist, you're going to want to be patient and take your time and make sure that bicyclist is safe.
Officer Mary, are you available to answer that question about the U-turn yielding to the right turn?
Absolutely, but I will tell you, I don't know why Florida does that. I honestly, I don't know. I've seen it at several intersections. It perplexes me. I started my law enforcement career in Georgia, and the U-turn has the right of way because, yes, like you said, they have the green light, and the right turn yields to everybody else in the intersection. I don't understand why Florida DHSMV decided that the U-turn has to yield, especially when that's probably the least available turn out of the whole intersection. So that would be a question that you would have to send up to Tallahassee and ask your lawmakers up there, because again, I don't even understand that one. And as far as riding two abreast in a bicycle in Valencia Lakes, guys, it's a low speed road. Okay, it's a circle. It's not that long. You take a breath, relax, wait, and when it's safe to pass them. On other roads, yes, if they impede the flow of traffic, if they're out in 674, 2 lanes, that's a different story. That's 45 and even up to 60-mile-an-hour roadway. So, but yeah, in Valencia Lakes, it's more of the fact that they're squeezed up against that curb, and you also have a much narrower road to ride on. If there's no other questions, I'll go ahead and start. Can I share my screen?
Absolutely, please.
Because at 3, I've got to make it elsewhere.
All right, thank you, Deputy Mary. Go ahead.
It's not letting me do it. Okay, well, I guess it's not going to let me share my screen. So let's talk a moment. I want to talk not only about golf carts, because that's a big hot topic in Sun City, the greater Sun City Center area, but let's first I want to talk about just some statistics.
You should be able to share. Sorry.
You got it?
Yes, you should be good to share. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, the biggest complaint that we get at the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office from the greater Sun City Center area, and when I say greater Sun City Center area, I'm talking about from I-75 over to Westlake Road and then from 19th all the way down to the Manatee County line. That's what I'm talking about. So it does encompass Valencia Lakes, and eventually I'll redraw it to encompass Valencia del Sol, just north of you. But speeding seems to be kind of the hot button, speeding and then accidents. So I went back and I do a lot of research in the speeding area. In addition, I have speed boxes that are covert, and I can put them up at different locations. And I put them around town as people complain, hey, they're doing 90 miles an hour down my road. Hey, every car is speeding down my road. So this is various counts on whether it's 674, whether it's parts of Capestone, whether it's Cypress Village Boulevard. And it's honestly, if you take Cypress Village Boulevard out of our statistics, it's relatively low. In 2017, I counted with my my covert, so it's not somebody sitting there, it's not you being able to slam on your brakes, it's a box that sits out in it's battery operated, runs for 3 days. And you know, I counted 12,500 vehicles, and only 4.35 of them were going, you know, 8 miles an hour over the speed limit, or more. So that's realistically, that's a low number. 2008, you know, I covertly counted 14,000, and I only had 4.5% doing 8 miles an hour or more over the speed limit. And then 2019, I still don't have my numbers for October, November, or December, but I counted 12,000 and even lower, 3.68. And I imagine that's because of just the traffic. And the more vehicles we put on the road, the slower that we're going to go. So, you know, my total speeding analysis, out of 42,000 vehicles, I only had about 4.4% that were 8 miles an hour or over. And, you know, because of variances, because of radar equipment, and because of state law, I'm not writing citations at 2, 3, and 4 miles an hour over. I cannot legally do so. We have to give a variance for the road, a variance for the equipment. So a 4.4%, I've got places in the county where it's closer to 30%. So those are definitely where we're going to spend our manpower. And here in our district, we're going to spend it on Cypress Village Boulevard. Now, that doesn't mean we're not putting motor units other places to calm the traffic and to slow it down. If we do get hot pockets, we will definitely deploy them there. So traffic stops for Greater Sun City Center. I know everybody says, oh, we never see anybody pulled over. We never see anybody getting a ticket. Well, I mean, I've never seen $1 million, but I do believe it exists. So I wanted to pull this out in 2018. You know, this is just Greater Sun City Center. We averaged 229 vehicle stops every month. That's not too bad. Now, the nice thing is we redistrict in 2018, reducing the amount of geography our patrol vehicles had to cover. Well, guess what? Our traffic stops went up because we were giving them a little more time to do proactive police work by reducing the geography they had to cover. So we went up to 270 traffic stops every single month. And we're averaging, our average is lower this year, but that's because a couple months during the COVID pandemic, we limited the amount of interaction that we had with citizens so that we could stay safe and healthy, so that in case something big popped off, we would be available and our manpower wouldn't be shortened. So then I pulled traffic crash data for 2018 and for 2019. And realistically, we average right around 60 crashes a month in the Greater Sun City Center area. Now that includes the big accidents where people are hurt, but it also includes where the guy backed into you at Publix. So, I mean, 60 for the population we have in this area is really not bad, considering it's only about 8% of those are injured. So then I looked, okay, is speeding our issue? Honestly, speeding is not our issue. Speeding is way down because on those car crashes, we put what caused the crash. Number one is failure to yield right of way. That means you didn't come to a complete stop at a stop sign. You didn't yield at a yield sign like you're supposed to, or you ran a red light. Okay? It's not speeding. It's the fact that either we need bigger stop signs, or people need bigger brake pedals on their vehicles. You know, we're not coming to a complete stop. We do the California roll. Our golf cart fatality was someone running a red light. Our golf cart fatality the previous year was somebody running a stop sign. Neither one had anything to do with speed. Our number one issue is stop signs. So typically when our motor units, our traffic units are deployed, that's what I deploy them for. I had two of them and they hit a couple areas in Sun City Center just last week, and I asked them to do both. No speeding tickets were written, but several stop sign violations were written, because that's what we do. That's our issue here. So our biggest accident locations is 19th at 301, which is just north of Valencia Lakes. Now, we've got the light there, and it's calmed down a lot since they put the light in. Before the light in, that was a very tumultuous area to drive through. Now it's pretty much, and even 19th at Cypress Village Boulevard, we've got a traffic light there now. So those accidents have gone down, because people would come over that bridge and you'd be right on top of that intersection. So basically the biggest one that we have to look out for right now is 301 674. So just out your door a little to the south. Predominantly that's because of just the traffic patterns with the construction. And as we all know, it gets a little hairy right there. And some of us want to kind of jump the light, and some of us want to go through a little later than we should. So that's kind of our biggest accident location right now in Sun City Center. Number two is going to be Cypress Village Boulevard and Sun City Center Boulevard. So over there at the Home Depot. So our two largest intersections. So I went through crashes for Florida. I went through fatality crashes, pedestrian hit and run. And what I did is I compared them against what we have in Sun City Center. And based on our population, it's relatively low, even in Hillsborough County. Overall in Florida, there were 400,000 crashes. And this is all from FHP. And we had 27,000 of them. For injury crashes, there were 250,000 and we only had 20,000. Now, if you take our population numbers, that's actually on the lower side, and we hope to keep it that way. And as 301 gets finished, that will help. That'll help traffic, that'll help crashes. It should reduce the number of crashes that we have at 674 and 301. Even though the volume will be up, it's better traffic management. So quick rules of the road. Most of you, or some of you, have golf carts. You have a golf cart club, and you're allowed to take your golf cart out into Sun City Center. So a golf cart is a golf cart is a golf cart. It's basically what you go to all of our shops and you purchase to ride around Valencia Lakes. Once you drive and operate a golf cart, right, you have to follow the rules of the road. All right, if you're in Valencia Lakes, they want you to still stop at the stop signs. You can't drive on the sidewalk. What I tell people is, if you won't do it with your car, don't do it with a golf cart. My biggest pet peeve is those people driving on my sidewalks. Sidewalks are for pedestrians, bicyclists, not for motor vehicles, not for a golf cart. If you don't drive your car on it, don't drive your golf cart on it. So Sun City Center, the area that you're attached to and you can easily get to from Capestone, we have an exemption. We have a legal exemption through Tallahassee to drive our golf carts on the road. Otherwise, you can't have a golf cart on Florida roadways. It's illegal to have a golf cart on a Florida roadway. We have an exemption. Now, that exemption, we have to keep up. We have to maintain it. We have to follow the rules of the road. We have to make sure that we're using them properly. So basically our boundary is South Bay Hospital over to the Publix for Sun City Center. So once you guys come out Cape Stone, you can drive across 301 at the red light, and that's the only place you can cross 301. You can't go south on 301. You have to go across there to come into Sun City Center. And then you can basically go all the way over to Home Depot, but on the roads, you can only go to South Bay. Once you pass Home Depot, you've got to use our cart paths. So basically, Upper Creek Drive here, and then all the way over here to Publix, you can use it. And then on the south side, basically 301, and then the end of Kings Point, you can use your golf cart on our roadways legally. Now, again, we have to obey our traffic laws, all right? You can't pass in no passing zones. You have to signal when you're turning. We have to stop at stop signs, stop at red lights. We can't drive the wrong way. We can't drive on the sidewalk, and we can't make illegal U-turns. So all the traffic laws that you obey in your car, and even the ones you don't obey in your car, you need to follow when you're in your golf cart. We average one golf cart accident every week, and it's golf cart versus a car. And let me tell you, the car always wins every single time. Your golf carts are made of plastic and aluminum. They are not built for safety at all. There are no crumple zones. There are no airbags. Most of them don't have seat belts. Okay? They basically destroy around you, and it's just you. Our fatalities that occur is from the driver or even the passenger getting thrown from the golf cart. There's nothing to hold you there. There's nothing to hold you in. There's nothing to encase you. Okay? And here's the thing. With those, 95% of those are our golf cart drivers' fault. They take the right-hand turn at a stop sign without stopping. They turn right at a yield sign without stopping. Okay? They don't drive where they're supposed to. They go the wrong way in a lane. Yes, we've had that in the oncoming traffic. All right? Again, as a golf cart driver, you should be a lot more defensive because you have nothing around you. All right? If you operate a golf cart on my roadways, you can only do it between sunrise and sunset. Right? The person has to be 14 years of age or older. You've got to have safe tires, a rearview mirror, efficient brakes, red warning devices front and back. And the reason I go out and educate so much on this is I don't want our exemption taken away. There's about 25,000 people in this area, and they like driving their golf carts to Home Depot and to Publix and to Winn-Dixie. Okay, and you do too, driving it over to Walgreens. Well, guess what? They look at how many tickets golf cart drivers get. And yes, golf cart drivers get tickets. Last week, I issued 3 because they were out an hour before sunrise. And it's sunrise, not just when you see the light. All right? They look at our crashes that involve golf carts. It's an exemption. It can be easily taken away. Right? It's not written into law that we have to have it in Sun City Center. So I try to make sure that we know the rules of the road so that we can keep that exemption. I want to be able for everybody to get in their golf cart and go down to Walgreens. Other roadways, I touched on this lightly. We've got some good designated golf cart paths. Upper Creek Drive has got a golf cart path. Cortero Drive has a golf cart path. There's also a long golf cart path that runs from Aldi all the way to Kings Point. Now, eventually we're getting a sidewalk on the north side of Sun City Center Boulevard, but it's only going to be a sidewalk. And I'm sure people are going to try to put their golf carts on it. The first couple of weeks, I'll give warnings and educate. After that, it'll be ticket time. Here's your path, that 301 path that goes to Walmart and back. You can use that with your golf cart. Go straight across at the red light at Cape Stone. Now, private roadways. All right, private roadways are up to the owner of those roadways. Kings Point, American Eagle Boulevard, which is Freedom Plaza, Valencia Lakes. That's you guys. Your board allows y'all to drive golf carts on your roads, and they allow you to drive them at night, but they still want you to follow the rules of the road. Stop signs, yielding to pedestrians, using your turn signal. Same with Kings Point. A few areas of confusion that we have, especially in Sun City Center, is there are golf cart only parking spaces. Why? Because the county says you cannot put a car in that space because it will impede Hillsborough County Fire Rescue. If it's a golf cart space, it's not for a car. They're pretty easily identifiable. But a golf cart can use a car space. Handicap. Golf carts can park in handicap parking as long as they display a placard, a valid current placard issued by DHSMV. All right. Now, I recommend if you have one to duct tape it into the windshield. That way somebody can't walk on and grab it or it can't blow out of your golf cart. But yes, they are allowed. The placard goes with the person, not with the vehicle. Any questions? That was a lot of information.
There was a few questions on the chat. So I see Patty, you had a question?
Yes, hi. I was wondering why cyclists can't use that golf cart path that is directly across from Capestone Avenue.
Because of the configuration of that golf cart path, it makes it dangerous. You know, it's only pretty much wide enough for a golf cart, and you've got those two chicanes in it, and bicycles can go on the roadway. So therefore they can go south on 301 and then cut into Publix or turn down 674 to go in Sun City Center. So they have more access to Sun City Center than just a standard golf cart.
Yeah, you know, just with all the construction that's going on and different traffic patterns, it gets very confusing. I'm an avid cyclist, and I much rather take the path given the option than ride on 301 at this juncture.
I know, and that causes some problems, but for now, that's how the state has it put together. You know, I had asked them at one point if we could change that, but they just don't like those two curves. They think they're pretty quick, and they're not sure a bicyclist would fare well against a golf cart.
Okay, thank you.
Not a problem.
Okay, we had one more.
Hold on,
Oh,
there's
sorry.
a couple questions.
Yep. Well, there's just one more question.
Hold on, Heather. In your bag today is a Sun City Center golf cart driver's handbook. It has a copy of the map, shows you where you can drive. It has a copy of the golf cart paths here in Sun City Center that you can use your cart on. The only thing that it's incorrect is that some of them don't have the crossing at El Rancho where you can cross 674. There's 4 crossings. Some of these books map only has 3. Other than that, use this map. And no, sunrise, sunset does not apply in Valencia Lakes because it's private property and your board allows you to drive at night. Thank you.
I think that was it. Was that all the questions, everyone?
This is Rodney. I had one other chat. I was curious why a red reflector, which typically means stop, it's in the rear. Why? I've never heard of a red reflector being in the front of a vehicle or any bicycle or anything. So I'm just curious why in the front. Why do we have a red reflector in the front of a vehicle?
Sorry, I was trying to unmute me. Because look at the original manufacturer of golf carts. All right, they didn't have turn. They're not fancy. They didn't have turn signals. Go find one like a Western from 1980. They're also smaller, and that would allow motorists to bring your eye to that vehicle. They're smaller, they're slower, and so then they would require those. Now, there is an exception to that with all the new ones. We've got rear, we've got We've got headlights. Old golf carts didn't have headlights at all. Old golf carts didn't have turn signals. So as long as you have those devices on there, you're good.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Deputy Mary? Okay, I'd like to also invite everyone who is on here that they may go after this at 3:30. There's going to be a bag, the bag with the flags and other information in those bags, a giveaway at outside the clubhouse. It starts at 3:30. So I just wanted to let everyone know. Thank you, Deputy Mary, and thank you, Breton, and thank you to Julie Bond for joining us. Breton, did you have anything more you wanted to say in closing remarks?
No, I was really glad to be invited, and I wanted to thank Carrie for, thinking of me and organizing this. And again, like I said, it's everyone's responsibility to share the road together. And so we need to think of each other as, looking out for each other as human beings, not, other obstacles in the road. So.
Thank you. And again, we had a question about, does everyone get one of these bags with the flags? Yes, everyone can go over there. We have plenty of them. If we have extra, they will also be available for a few days at the front desk. I think that Harry said he was also posting it on Nextdoor so people could know that they're available. So yes, they should be available to everyone. I think we have plenty. Well, again, thank you, everyone. Really appreciate everyone coming in. Thank you, Breton. Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Deputy Mary. You guys have a wonderful week. Good afternoon, everyone.
Thank you.